Hello and welcome to Nice and Blunt. I'm Adam Mariancho, and it's time for another live stream. Today is Friday, May 9th at 3 p.m. We're also going to discuss the George Pickens trade to the Cowboys. Let's go. All right, so George Pickens is now a Cowboy, and let's go over what it took to get him. The Steelers acquired a third round and fifth round pick in the next two drafts, one in each, and in exchange, the Cowboys got George Pickens and a sixth rounder in return. I think it's a pretty beneficial trade for all parties, and especially in Pittsburgh, there was only room enough. There's only enough room for one diva wide receiver, and they already paid DK Metcalf the bag. So kind of a redundant position with Pickens and Metcalf there, and has been a headache at times. They've drafted some weird yet talented receivers. So I think it's good that they moved off of Pickens in Pittsburgh. However, in the short term, I think Pickens kind of has an increase in fantasy value by going to Dallas and just knowing who his quarterback is. With Dak, it's definitely a better situation than Mason Rudolph. And I do think the Cowboys offense is going to be throwing the ball a lot more than the Steelers offense. So I do think Pickens kind of retains the value he already had. In general, I'm not like dying to draft him, but it's not the worst situation. The Cowboys also needed a wide receiver too. They get a cheap option. He's still on his rookie contract. This year, the cap number for George Pickens is only like 3.5 million, 3.6, according to Over the Cap here. But next year, he will be an unrestricted free agent. So will the Cowboys retain him? If it's on a team-friendly deal, then it all works out, but I don't know if it's the best fit long-term. Pickens is a weird guy. Can definitely be more of a headache in the locker room than generally beneficial to the overall vibe of the team. So don't totally love it, but for Dak Prescott, he does gain some value. George Pickens, minor gain in value. And then big losers in Dallas would be Jalen Tolbert and potentially Jake Ferguson. Not dying to be drafting anyone beyond them in my fantasy league. But for the Steelers right now, we still have Rudolph as the quarterback, so not quite sure if that helps anyone. Until Rodgers signs, it's kind of a gross offense to be investing in for fantasy purposes. But DK Metcalf, definitely a big cloud is lifted in terms of the target share with him and Pickens. And then because Pickens is off the field, there could be some more targets for Pat Freiermuth. And then Roman Wilson, last year's second round pick. Let's pull up his player profiler page real quick. Roman Wilson is probably going to see the biggest benefit overall in fantasy value. Am I telling you to draft him? Probably not. He's going dirt cheap at the end of your draft, pretty much undrafted in general, but will be on the field and did have a good season as a senior for Michigan 2 years ago. 48 catches, 789 yards, and 12 touchdowns. If he can be that efficient in this offense, then Roman Wilson might actually crack your fantasy lineup next season, but probably a waiver wire target, not someone I'm drafting. We need to see what it looks like before you really want him on your team. But if he can offer that Tyler Lockett upside, an average of like 16 yards per catch, that's not going to be too bad. And maybe in round 18, we will take a flyer on Roman Wilson at times in some drafts. But that's it for this talk. We are done regarding this trade. And now we're going to do a fantasy draft over on Underdog. We're doing best ball tournament. I still have about 4 or 5 entries in the Schnauzer. So because that's the cheapest tournament we can get into, that is what I will be doing. I have not done too many drafts off the live stream. So that's what we're going to hop into. And we're doing a 20-second timer. This is an 18-round draft that starts 3 wide receivers every week. Best ball just inserts the most points into your lineup every single week, no matter what, when the season is rolling. So that's what we're going to do. If you want to join me, hit that button right now. I'm on a 5-second delay, so let's hop in, and hopefully we don't have to wait too long. Hopefully this lobby is pretty much full once we're in it. It is. That is exactly what happens. This draft will be starting any second. Now we have pick 4. That's pretty good. We can get a good option on our team. So we have pick 4. I think it's probably going to be more helpful to go with wide receiver in general in round 1. I kind of like the running backs you can get in the second, but if Bijan is there, we'll probably take him. It's probably between Bijan and then whichever receiver, CeeDee Lamb or Justin Jefferson, is on the board. That's probably the direction we're going to go in. We've taken Gibbs in some other drafts. Gibbs usually goes a little closer to pick 6. And if we get Bijan, that's probably the direction I'll start in this draft. But should get going. Here we go. First team on the clock. This draft is now underway. So nothing crazy to start. We have Jamar Chase at 1. Probably see Saquon pop off here. Yep. Bijan goes. So it's between Jefferson and Lamb. And because of the new acquisition in Dallas, we're going to pass on Lamb. We're going to stick with Justin Jefferson, especially at the top of the draft when the ADP doesn't change too much. It's rare that players like this fall to you in the second half. So let's just get our exposure to Jefferson. Never going to regret that. Although the quarterback situation's weird with J.J. McCarthy, Jefferson probably still pays off. Jefferson's had almost a record-setting start to his career. It probably doesn't change very much, even with essentially a rookie quarterback. Yeah, round 1, pretty basic. We do see Nico at 9. I think I still trust Nico, but the fact that they drafted multiple receivers could shake things up. I wish they had better offensive line protection. I wish the Texans had invested in the O-line more than backup receiver. I feel like that's the key thing for CJ Stroud to have that offense rolling, because they also brought in Christian Kirk. I'm not really expecting any of those 3 players, Christian Kirk, Jaden Higgins, or Jalen Noel, to impact Nico Collins. But Nico has dealt with some injuries in his young career. And at pick 9, I don't hate it in the back of the first round, but I kind of prefer Malik Nabers and St. Brown straight up over Nico Collins. That Texans offense isn't my surest bet, but Nico is super talented. Other than the end of the season when Nico was healthy, he was consistently giving you about 100 yards and a touchdown in a lot of games. So can't really go wrong with any of those receivers, but in that order, I don't think I'll be ranking Nico Collins above Nabers and St. Brown. Personally, that's how I feel. But that's pretty much the only weird thing that happens in the first round. Round 2, we see a little run on running back with CMC, Derrick Henry, and A-Chain. If CMC is healthy, he's worth the pick, but in redraft, am I dying to commit to him? Probably not. We got Jefferson, so we could mix in Trey McBride. I'm going to go Bucky Irving. And there is a world where Bucky Irving actually does put up top 5 numbers again at the position. There was a stretch there where Bucky Irving, the more I looked into it this last week, Bucky Irving might be the man at running back. Like possibly one of the best values late second round overall. He had an insane stretch there. Let's pull it up and show it to you a little more in depth after our next pick. Okay, have it ready. We're about to be on the clock. I could just stick with what we've done in the past, but it kind of feels a little bit boring to repetitively go Chase Brown, Terry McLaurin, or Devontae Adams. Let's mix it up. Let's go JSN We normally don't go Jackson Smith and Jigba, and I think straight up, I would definitely rather have JSN over Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't really trust Harrison that much. Kind of a weird rookie season. A little overhyped, and I don't feel convinced his price fell enough. Whereas JSN, I don't think Cooper Kupp is that big of a threat. So as long as Sam Darnold can be somewhat viable, JSN is probably going to have enough value where a second round pick is warranted. Where while I definitely prefer Terry or Adams as a safer bet, there's less target competition for JSN than Adams, and he did have several big games. I don't hate it, but it's not usually where I go. Let's pivot back to Bucky Irving real quick, because once his snap percentage picked up in that Bucs offense, he really hit his stride. He had his first like true big game here, actually injured, and after that point, they didn't really look back. They gave him the rock a lot more. He kind of got hurt in the Las Vegas game here, where he only had 4 touches, 3 yards. So that game doesn't really count. But in general, if you look at everything else from the game against San Francisco through the end, in those games, he averaged over 55% of snaps, and he was really dominating. He had 88 rushing yards per game and 5 rushing touchdowns in 8 games. That's a pretty reliable floor. And then he also added 27 receiving yards on 3 catches. So all in all, we're looking at 114 yards from scrimmage and a pretty safe odds that he actually scores a touchdown, like better than 50-50 with Bucky Irving. If that repeats, you're getting definitely a top 10 running back. You're definitely satisfied with the player you have. And there's also some other games where Bucky Irving did pop off. I could give you even better stats than what those averages look like. I'm starting to feel like Bucky Irving is a safe pick in this range because he does have that like 20-point upside if everything breaks right for him. And it's only his second year in the NFL. His role is only going to go up. So while I still think Rachaad White's price kind of went a little too low, I still think Bucky Irving is a worthwhile pick here. And now that we're on the clock in round 4, I think I'm going to go with Devontae Smith. Devontae, I think, is a very reliable wide receiver 3. Well, he's not always going to give you 15 fantasy points and top 20 production. When he does score a touchdown, the minimum you're getting from him is like 16 points. He usually gives you like 90 plus yards and a touchdown because when he scores, it's on deep passes, and the volatility, especially in best ball, I think does really work out well for Devontae's best ball profile. When he doesn't have a good game, we can fill in someone, but when he does contribute over 10, it's usually closer to 16 plus. And that's a very reliable, I think, bust-proof wide receiver pick in round 4. I do like Cortland Sutton, but I've taken a lot of him as well. We're kind of trying to diversify this roster a little bit. Zay Flowers, kind of up and down, and not a ton of passing touchdowns in Baltimore. And then the team at 1 kind of reached on Ridley and definitely reached on Pickens. So here we are once again. We could go running back, but I think with Bucky, we're going to pass for a while. And until we know the quarterback situation, it's probably not ideal to be taking Metcalf, but I have some red flags in the back of my mind regarding Jameson Williams, and I also have a decent amount of him already. So kind of trying to just make this team a little bit different than ones I've drafted. So you could go JMO in this spot. However, he doesn't always make the best decisions. If you told me JMO got suspended again and missed like 4 or 5 games because of like PEDs or something, wouldn't be shocked at all. And I also feel like without Ben Johnson, there is a chance that this offense really starts constricting things down to the bread and butter of St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, and the run game. I see a bit of a down season for Jameson Williams after a breakout campaign last year. So I'm willing to go Metcalf, knowing that Pickens is no longer there. I think Metcalf's round 5 price is fine. Jonathan in the chat saying, "Do not take JJ McCarthy this time or ever." I mean, at least on this team, it would be warranted. We would at least get the stack. But after taking him once, I can't say I'm dying to take him again. Really hoping for some rushing value to kind of salvage that ADP. But somebody goes Aaron Jones over Travion Henderson here in the 5th round. I hate that. I would never do that. I would never take Aaron Jones over Henderson. That's probably like a left in the queue type of pick. I would never endorse Aaron Jones above Henderson straight up. That is a terrible pick in round 5. But at the very least, even if he has a good season, like that's 2 rounds above where you can normally get him. Hate that pick by team, what is it, team 9? Yeah, they have Nico Collins, Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, Mike Evans, Aaron Jones. So far, we've shit on team 9's draft picks a little bit in terms of commentary on the other teams. But George Kittle falls to pick 63. Wow, that's a really good price on Kittle. Kittle's way safer than Laporta. So for them to go back-to-back, Team 10 got a steal with Kittle. If Kamara comes back, I'm comfortable with Kamara. But the teams after me, what are they looking at? 2, 3... Teams after me already have multiple running backs. I think we're going to pass on that. I think we're just going to go with Jerry Jeudy. It's underdog, so just grabbing a reliable wide receiver 1. Not like an exciting pick. Oh, dang. I was looking at the wrong part of the map there. Some of these teams have 0 running backs, so maybe I should have passed. Maybe should have gone Quinshon Judkins or Kamara, James Conner instead. But I think one of those players probably makes it back to us. Even if we get stuck with Caleb Johnson, that's not the end of the world. But the difference between Jerry Jeudy and Ricky Pearsall kind of does make a big difference. Like, the Browns offense is not exciting, but Jeudy gets paid well. And other than David Njoku, there's really no threat for targets. Unless you're a Cedric Tillman believer, there is really no concern that Jerry Jeudy sees less than 120 targets next season. But it works out. We get Quinshon Judkins to make it back. And while I am a little bit worried about the committee in this backfield, I think Judkins is talented enough where he really emerges as the go-to guy. And we do see some top 20 performances from Judkins. At this price, pick 76, 6 past ADP. In the 7th, I do think Judkins is a very reliable selection as your running back too. So not a big gap between him and guys like Montgomery, James Conner. He's the youngest of this group as well, and therefore the most likely to stay healthy. Judkins, I think, is a very fine selection as a consolation. But now we're committed to Cleveland. That's not the best situation to be in. Can't say I'm super excited about that, but we will figure it out. And I do think that was kind of in hindsight, I think that was the right way to go at that 6-7 turn. Get the best, safest receiver and the best value at running back. Jerry Jeudy, Quinshon Judkins. Pretty good. So we start out Justin Jefferson, Bucky Irving, JSN, Devontae Smith, DK Metcalf, Jerry Jeudy, and Judkins. And it feels like the only player of this group that I've selected on the live stream before has been Jerry Jeudy in round 6. So this team's going to be different. We're putting eggs in different baskets. And if some of our convictions on other teams are incorrect, this one will hedge on some of those bets. But so far, it's kind of a boring, safe strategy on underdog. Grabbing receiver while you can is usually the smart decision, but we don't have any like flashy onesie positions. Like if we had a high-end quarterback, this team might be a little more interesting. Maybe if we went McBride this team could also have been a little bit more dicey. But so far, I don't think we've made any wrong picks. It is what it is. But Albie, good to see you, man. Thank you. Always can use some good luck in these tournaments. You got to thread the needle to actually make big money. So thanks for the good luck. And then Best Ball on Call, not drafting today, but stopped in for your like. Thank you very much, my friend. Appreciate it. Enjoy your weekend. To everyone that's watching, whether it's during the live or on the post later on. But this is exactly the proof why we go Jerry Jeudy. We get sniped on Mooney, the only receiver I kind of like in this range, and otherwise we're looking at Cooper Kupp, Josh Downs in this round. Not very pretty. So happy to have what we have. We don't have any receivers for the Bucs. We're going to pass on Baker Mayfield. If he's there again in the next round, maybe we take him. But we grab another running back. We go with Isaiah Pacheco. I can easily see a world where Pacheco is washed. He did not look like the same player at all after his injury. But if he's healthy, we know he is a good value at this price. Last year, he was going in the 4th round, and it just is a matter of health with Pacheco. The running backs available in this range are not very impressive, but no one has put together a better season than Pacheco in fantasy football. So very reliant on his health, and as a 7th round pick, I could see a world where he is never the same following his leg injury from last year, but he did come back for the last few weeks of the season, played in the playoffs, was overshadowed by Kareem Hunt. With a full offseason to recover, Pacheco has the upside. And there's kind of a world where this is very accurate, Albie. He's a better version of Dobbins. Hopefully, we can get a J.K. Dobbins-esque value out of Pacheco this year. But definitely pricier than where Dobbins was being drafted last season, but definitely a little bit more proof of success. This is pretty gross, but we get a good value on Baker, and we do have the Bucky Irving combo. So technically, that is a bit of a stack. And I do think Baker's a pretty locked-in top 10 quarterback this season. Even if we don't have the best stacks for him on this team, like we don't have Mike Evans, we don't have Godwin, and it'd be pretty shocking if Egbuka made it all the way back around. But we could still draft Jalen McMillan, perhaps. And if one of those veteran receivers goes down, then that stack could be valuable. Let's just take the dip on ADP with Baker Mayfield. We considered him at pick 93. I think it's definitely worth taking a jab at with pick 100. Baker did have a very productive year last season. How many touchdowns did he throw? He had like 35 touchdowns, I want to say. No, he threw for 41 touchdowns, 4,500 yards and 41 touchdowns. Second straight season with over 4,000 yards passing for Baker Mayfield. So he does play well in that Bucs system. Also offered 378 rushing yards and another 3 touchdowns, 18 total turnovers. But the nice thing about the best ball scoring format here on Underdog, interceptions are not -2. Interceptions are only -1. So interceptions are pretty irrelevant when it comes to like the downside of these quarterbacks. So I do like this price on Baker Mayfield. Round 9, pick 100. It feels very safe at pick 100. I'm not overspending like somebody reached on Trevor Lawrence at pick 80. That's insane. But there's a world where like Caleb Williams and Patrick Mahomes at pick 86 and 87 are still not worth it. Like there was stretches last season where Mahomes wasn't even top 12 at the position. And Caleb, obviously he should really improve with Ben Johnson, but Caleb was barely top 20 for the majority of last year. So I'd probably rather have those quarterbacks in fantasy than Baker, but I don't see a big gap between them. And to get Baker 14 picks past them is a good price. Never going to regret that price on Baker. This I wish this team had Garrett Wilson because I actually want to take Justin Fields here. We don't normally grab Justin Fields, but when he plays, when he has a full season, he puts up the rushing yards to pop off. So let's take a gamble here. He also falls well past ADP 102. We get him at 117. And because of his rushing skill set, he's not a player we like have to stack with Garrett Wilson. It'd be better if we did have Wilson on this roster. But we did get sniped on Wilson. And instead we have JSN. So at least with Baker and Fields, we can call it done at the position. And we got good values on both of them. So we can leave this draft, maybe not with like the best quarterback duo, but definitely a high-end competitive one. And I feel satisfied with that combo. But at running back here, we're looking at Bashal Tutin as the only like solid value. Receivers pretty gross. So I'm going to take Tutin. I don't normally go with the Jags running back. I think this is a big gamble. A lot of scenarios where Bashal Tutin is not the correct pick. But what did we see from the Jags front office this season? They are willing to leave the previous era in the past. And I really think there is no commitment at all to guys like Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby. So while Tutin is not like a very high draft capital type of player, I still think he's probably poised to have the most value in this backfield. So I do think Tutin is a fine pick. And as our running back 4, we're not counting on him like crazy. But in that Jags offense, if he does somehow emerge, then there will be some competitive contributions from Tutin if he can take that RB1 job. But I'm also tempted to pair him with a guy like Tank Bigsby. I think ETN scares me the most, but I don't feel like this is a smash selection with Bashal Tutin. I think it's just kind of like one of the most justified names left remaining that you can somewhat have high hopes for. So running back 4, Bashal Tutin, along with Bucky Irving, Quinshon Judkins, and Pacheco, high upside and relatively decent floor. The top 2, I think, will keep us afloat. And then if we get stellar years out of Pacheco and Tutin, then we will compete as one of the better running back rooms of this team. So far it's very balanced. We don't have any stacks really other than Baker Mayfield, Bucky Irving. But to Albie's point, the Jets tight end should be available later on. And you have seen me draft Mason Taylor as a viable late round tight end. So yeah, I will probably be targeting Mason Taylor because this team needs stacks. We could also go Kate Otten. Maybe this is a 3 tight end build, as yet again I punt the position. We have often disregarded early round tight ends, at least on the live stream. In general, that's the strategy I often go with. If you can hit on the waiver wire or, round 16 of your draft with a breakout tight end, that's usually one of the safer ways to be a playoff team. But we're passing on quarterback for sure. McMillan is still available. And then the tight ends we're kind of looking at are relatively gross. So we will grab McMillan. Not the best stack, but the stack that's available. And McMillan did have some very productive weeks. As Mike Evans gets older, there is a path for him to be on the field, but obviously as they draft Egbuka round 1, his snap share destined to fall. I can't say I'm like ecstatic about investing in Jalen McMillan here. Like I'd much rather have Egbuka on this team, but it is what it is. And then at this next turn, I can consider Jalen Noel. I actually think he's a very talented, underrated player, just kind of a crowded wide receiver room where he plays in. And then the running back considerations here, nothing that like really jumps off the page and is like must target. Some of these players are fine, but no one's like really speaking to me. We'll have pick 148, so we probably go Jake Ferguson. Granted, I can't say I'm like dying to do that. We can go Quentin Johnston, but that's that's gross. Or Jake Ferguson. Let's fine. Well, I think we'll go Jake Ferguson just because of the dip on ADP. He goes 12 picks a full round past typical asking price. And while I'm not like the most excited about drafting Jake Ferguson, last year I really was. And coming off his breakout season in 2023, there are some scenarios where it really does work out again. There's a chance that George Pickens completely fails in Dallas, maybe having no pre existing chemistry with Dak, really doesn't work out. He's a big headache often. So I could see a scenario where, as a free agent at the end of the year, if they have like a week 10 bye and Pickens pisses the entire coaching staff off all year long, I could totally see them phase him out of the offense. And, he's relegated to the number 3 option in targets, where Ferguson actually does emerge as the next best option for Dak Prescott. So we did see Ferguson have decent top 10 value at tight end 2 years ago. Last year it was pretty brutal, but he did get injured. And then right before he was going to come back from injury early in the season, Dak got injured. And then obviously with Cooper Rush, it wasn't the same situation. Ferguson didn't have a single touchdown last year either. So that's bound to bounce back. Like, he probably gives you at least 4 touchdowns this season. And if my optimism last year does pay off where Ferguson gives you like 7 or 8 touchdowns, then there is a world where this round 13 draft capital is worth it. But because we punted, we're not expecting the world out of this player in our lineup. That's why I'm going to be drafting 3 tight ends. We're going to be targeting Cade Otton and Mason Taylor in the coming rounds at tight end. But are there any running backs I could go with? We have Eckler, Braylon Allen, Roschon, Devin Neal, DJ Giddens. Just backups. We can get a better value, most likely. At receiver, Josh Palmer still available. We're not going to go Josh Palmer. Not dying to draft Josh Palmer at all. I think Keenan, Adam Thielen, and Wandale are kind of the most interesting. And Keenan is really only there because he could have a good landing spot. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow. Yeah, Keenan looks poised for some more reps this year. But this isn't ideal. We're not drafting quarterback. I don't really love it, but we're going to go Keenan Allen. I can justify Eckler at this price. But we're probably going Mason Taylor with our next pick. That's kind of a bummer that Taylor and Otton have the relatively exact same ADP. It's unlikely both of them come back around. And Mason Taylor actually does get sniped here from team 1. They go Ertz and Taylor back to back. So the decision is made for us. We're stacking with Baker Mayfield and Cade Otton. Okay, so this Buck stack starting to come together. We have Baker, Bucky Irving, and then some of the ancillary pieces with Jalen McMillan and Cade Otton. But we're going to be locking up a ton of rushing touchdowns. If Baker can throw another 40, that'd be great. He would smash at this price. And then Fields with the rushing upside does contribute enough. Perhaps we go Malachi Corley with our final pick as most likely the number 2 receiver on the field. But we're going to need at least one more running back, maybe 2. And then at receiver, we have Jefferson, JSN, Devontae Smith, DK Metcalf, Jerry Jeudy, Jalen McMillan, and Keenan Allen. We're drafting one more receiver for sure. We have 3 picks left. We need another tight end, another running back, and one more receiver. Not my favorite team But I think considering these are picks I normally don't make, I'm actually relatively satisfied with how the team is shaping out. I can probably look through the other teams and find at least one or two that I probably like better, but I think just based off knowing who's on the roster, like our running back position is relatively solid. I would say this is probably a likely top 4 finish in this 12 team pod in the tournament. So, uh don't hate it. I'm not over the moon about it. And I think knowing that, we probably mix it up and go a little bit off the board with our next draft. We will be doing a second one after this is over. So stay tuned. We'll have a shot at redemption. But I really think this team worked out well. Like, receivers very deep. We're pretty comfortable. Running back works out. It's just a matter of, are we lucky enough that Pacheco and Tootin really do pan out with that true upside? That's going to be the key difference. Whether this team advances as a top 2 finish or just peters out middle of the pack. That's the big bet. But the ADP discount at quarterback, I think, saves us a little bit with this roster. The tight ends we're looking at don't really speak to me very much. Receiver, kind of gross, but at this point in the handcuff game, we want a path for success and a team that we know will like favor one guy as the workhorse. We're going to go Blake Corum. And he did just about nothing last year. I think you can kind of hit the panic button, perhaps, with the addition of Jarquez Hunter. But I think as a prospect, I did prefer Blake Corum out of college, and the draft capital is a bigger investment than Jarquez Hunter, who's the third stringer, and as a rookie probably has a steep learning curve. I'm willing to bet on a year to somewhat breakout in terms of snaps for Blake Corum. So if Kyron Williams goes down, Blake Corum would be one of those potential top 12 players at the position. And I'm willing to take a swing at this price. Like, we passed on some other running backs earlier, like Austin Eckler, for instance, in the previous rounds. And I don't see like that big of a gap between Eckler and Corum. I think on a weekly basis, you probably get a safer floor from Eckler, that's for sure. But if the starter goes down for both of them, I think you have a much higher ceiling for Blake Corum in that Rams offense. So that's why we go Blake Corum. Now we're going to go receiver for sure. Maybe not for sure, actually. I think we're going to go Chig Okonkwo. I will go Okonkwo because I'm not dying to invest in the Texans offense. Other than Nico Collins, there's just way too many mouths to feed, and Schultz really fell off in the touchdown department last season and yards per reception department as well, moving from Dallas to Houston. Oh no, he's been in Houston for 2 years now. He just had a down year in the same offense. So not excited about that. Then bringing in a lot of weapons. I don't love Schultz, and consistently there have been like 2 straight seasons where there are some top 10 contributions from Chig Okonkwo. It doesn't happen very much, but drafting him this late outside the top 25 at the position, that's all we're asking for. We're trying to get some 10-point games out of this tight end 3 on our roster, enough to pair with the breakout touchdown performances of Cade Otton and then a relatively high floor on a week-to-week basis from Ferguson. So the trio of Ferguson, Otton, and Okonkwo, not bad at all. Maybe we should have gone Mason Taylor at pick 165 and had that other stack with Justin Fields. But is there a receiver that I'm like dying to have in this range other than Keenan Allen? Not really. You know, like Amari Cooper, it's the same thing. I think Keenan is possibly less washed than Cooper. Cooper had a terrible year after he got traded. At least Keenan had a good season with the Bears. And then Lockett feels like a mentor in Tennessee more than like a big contributor. Not really dying to draft Lockett these days. I'd rather take a shot on Ayamanor or Cameron DK. Chimere DK. All these receivers are just like random ass swings. So because of that, we're going to look at the Jets offense. And the Jets drafted Arian Smith, but can't say I'm that excited. They also brought in Josh Reynolds. They did retain Alan Lazard, but the biggest draft capital for them would be Malachi Corley, who had a terrible season as a rookie. But I'm willing to overlook it a little bit just because we have Justin Fields, we have the stack. And if you asked me this time last year, I actually did think Corley was a decent prospect, had some upside. So is it a gross pick? Yes. In round 18, they're all gross. And because it correlates with Justin Fields, that's why I'm willing to pull the trigger. That is the only justification I can give you. It offers us a Jets stack. So that's why we go Malachi Corley. Albie says he hears good things about Tesla. I'm willing to take Tesla, but I needed some type of stack, and I do not have any Lions. I don't have Jared Goff. So we've taken Tesla in a previous draft. In this one, we pass. We go Malachi Corley. And hope for the best. I'm going to draft another team, though. We are hopping into another Schnauzer, $3 tournament, 20-second clock. If you want to join me, hit that button. I'll give you about a 5-second delay. That's about now. 8 spots available. When it fills, I'll let you know. I'm going to refill my water while we're waiting, and hopefully the lobby's filled. I'll be back in like 30 seconds, a minute. Ooh, Albie's in. Word. Good luck, man. Good luck. Five spots left. Again, if you'd like to join, it's the $3 Schnauzer. 20 seconds on the clock. We'll be underway pretty soon. Down to 3 spots left. Yeah, not too long. Next Wednesday, we get the schedule released. I'm excited for that. That kind of like for my editing and like for the channel, kind of like how I wrap my mind around making videos. Like once I get the schedule and I can make like my win-loss predictions, that kind of like really puts me in the mindset and the vibe to start cranking out more videos. So once that comes out, I think the channel will really start to pick up. I did not post on Wednesday, didn't go live, but I don't know, it still just feels so far away for the season to start. Like my interest level is definitely increasing. I'm doing more of like finalizing on like my stats and charts and stuff, the figures I need to know. I do actually have my running back rankings pinned down. I just haven't made a video about it, but we're about to turn the corner in terms of the upload rate. on the channel. But we get pick 4 again in this draft, so we'll try and make it a little different than the last one. We did have a few landmines. Maybe we go Trey McBride on this team. Maybe we have a Arizona Cardinals double stack. Maybe we vie for McBride, Marvin Harrison on this one. Perhaps that is the way, but we're never going to force anything. We'll just always try and take best player available. But Jefferson does go off. So we mentioned we were looking at Bijan in the other one, but we didn't get him. We're going to go Bijan instead. And we'll have maybe a more elite running back room this time. But Albie, I see at pick 7. Best ball on calls has flipped the board. That's not the worst thing to do, but the spots to do it is in the odd rounds. Like in round 2, I think you want to try and get kind of a best player available. If anyone falls to you, that's usually a good spot. And then round 3, when you have the long turn, that is the best spot to justify some reaches. So maybe in rounds 3, rounds 5, we will grab someone that usually goes on the other end of the board. Hello, Mr. Grapefruit. Thank you for joining us. Albie likes CeeDee Lamb at 7. That's a good value on Lamb. And Best Ball says Neighbors would be fun on this side. I can justify a Neighbors pick. I can also justify a St. Brown pick. I'm kind of underweight on some of these like early round picks though. Like I've gotten a few like pick 1s, pick 2s, but then if you've noticed on the live streams, which is where I've done almost all of my drafts so far, I get a lot of like pick 7, pick 9, pick 10. I've been on the other side of the board a lot more. So because I don't have a ton of exposure to the top 4, I'm a little more inclined right now to just stick with whoever's there. Because they're just almost never there for you on the other side. But once I do like, 50 plus of these and I've gotten a little bit more, accustomed to getting a little bit of everyone, then I'll start making a few more random swings. Like if you're with me in like July, I think at that point you'll probably see me grab a St. Brown or a Neighbors at pick 5. I'll be more willing to do that just to mix it up. Grapefruit says he thinks CMC is going to be a riser. It's definitely possible. I think if we get some positive health reports, he will move up the board, but the like cloud of information in San Francisco every year, every offseason is always something to like, it's hard to trust. But this, I think, is the first Ladd McConkey draft pick I've done on the live stream. We have not taken Ladd McConkey like at all in round 2 so far. So I'm going to go with Ladd. We have Bijan as well. And while I mentioned we could go McBride, let's shake it up a little bit with Ladd McConkey instead. We probably go with receiver again. More likely than not with the next pick. If Garrett Wilson is there, I'll probably consider Garrett Wilson. If not, maybe we consider Marvin Harrison, but I really don't like those picks. I'm not like excited with those picks. I think it's a lot more likely they do not pan out than merit the selection. But if Jacobs does fall here, I think I could go, nah, this team snipes me on Jacobs, but I think the right pick is not Marvin Harrison Jr. I've taken a lot of Chase Brown though. Let's go with Harrison. He did have at least 8 touchdowns last year. But I kind of feel like he's overrated. Marvin Harrison's stat line last season, he played all 17 games. He had 62 catches, 885 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Meanwhile, let's look at his dad because I saw this stat on him where it was like almost identical numbers between him and his dad in their rookie season. Marvin Harrison Sr.'s rookie season, he played 16 games, 64 catches, 836 yards, and 8 touchdowns. That is literally like the exact same thing. Junior had 20 more yards, one fewer reception, the exact same amount of touchdowns in one more game. They pretty much did identically the exact same rookie season. And if you look at year 2 for Marvin Harrison, senior that is, nothing really changed. He had 10 more catches, but only 30 more yards, and his touchdowns went down. Only until year 3, where he missed some time, did he actually start to like put up really good yards per game numbers. Like it jumped to 65 yards per game, and then only in year 4. No, I don't want this. In year 4 is when Marvin Harrison broke out in the NFL. 1,600 yards, 12 touchdowns, and then beyond that, he was money. Every single year, he averaged 1,400 yards and 13 touchdowns beyond that point. And when did the Colts get Peyton? That is a good point. 1999. But it's not like Kyler Murray is like Peyton Manning. You know what I mean? I could easily see like almost the exact same type of trends where until Marvin Harrison Jr. is in a contract season, we really don't see like the big leap. And then once that leap finally happens, that's when you know, like, yeah, I'm probably getting relatively elite status from this player. But maybe I'm underestimating him. Maybe he does pan out. He was a big bust last year where he was drafted. At the 1-2 turn, Harrison did not pay off. I wish he was going around Tep McMillan. Like, if you told me Harrison was going round 4 with guys like DJ Moore and the Chiefs receivers, I think I would like that price a lot more than where it is right now. But we considered running back in the previous round, and we have Ladd McConkey. Let's invest in the Chargers offense once again. Let's go Omarion Hampton. We got 2 running backs, 2 receivers. I have Hampton as a top 15 running back, and I do think it kind of falls off a little bit after this point. Like, unless Mixon stays healthy, I think it's going to be hard to find a replica of the value you're getting from Omarion Hampton. But this is a good point. We may never see it from Marvin Harrison because Kyler is not Peyton. The only thing that is encouraging about Marvin Harrison Jr. and his fantasy value this year, they did nothing in the draft in terms of offensive weapon. They didn't even draft a running back. They didn't draft a receiver. They did not draft a tight end. They have no other competition for targets other than Trey McBride and James Conner. Michael Wilson is like a complete afterthought in my estimation. Michael Wilson has been terrible for fantasy purposes. So other than McBride, there's no one else catching passes, and that is what keeps Harrison viable overall. But I kind of want to go Ridley, but I think we're going to go Joe Mixon and try and get away with ignoring running back for a while. I think we're going to try and get some big contributions from running back because literally Mixon is my tier break at the position. I see a big gap between Mixon and Hampton as like running backs 14, 15, and everyone behind them. And I don't think you're getting anywhere near the same caliber of running back beyond this point. There's also a few other teams that have focused on running back early, and this gives us the luxury to move off the position as it starts to really dry up. Like, the difference between running back 16 and running back 15, I think, is a big gap. and then running back 16 through like 25, I kind of feel are all the same. So that's why I'm willing to do it. We are kind of losing ground at receiver, and I was very close to taking Ridley. So happy for you that you got your guy. Hopefully, I don't regret passing on Ridley, but some of the receivers at this point don't give me like the biggest amount of confidence. Ridley is one of those guys I think is a very, very safe pick, though. So I like your pick at 55. I think your team so far is shaping out nicely. Like CeeDee Lamb and AJ Brown, that's a very reliable combo. And then you have Chase Brown, who I think is probably one of the more valuable third-round picks. Xavier Worthy, I'd rather have than Rashee Rice, and I noticed someone mentioned earlier, Best Ball says Rashee Rice is climbing. I don't understand why. Like, you should go back and watch the play where he went down with his ACL tear. Like, Mahomes blew up his knee. Rashee Rice was running like full speed down the sideline trying to tackle an interception that was just made. And Mahomes just comes in and like shoulder straight to the kneecap. Like, I don't think Rashee Rice is going to be the same after this point. I'd be worried about Rashee Rice, but I don't want another Jerry Jeudy team. So F it, we're going to go Deebo Samuel. And I know I've kind of shit on Deebo a little bit, but maybe he has a resurgence with Jaden Daniels. Maybe it works out. Deebo is capable of some big blow-up games, but so far I can't say I'm like really loving this receiving core. So far the receivers on this team, other than Ladd, not giving me like a ton of confidence. We might need 9 receivers on this one. I think even if we get like a good value on Quinshon Judkins again, I think I got to pass and go with a receiver. I think I might go Ayuk. If Ayuk hits, then he will be much more valuable than any of the other receivers in this range. Ayuk still has top 20 upside. Granted, he also had an ACL injury, and you hear me shitting on Rice, but Rashee Rice is going in round 4 at like the 3-4 turn. Early round 4 is much different than mid round 7. So for me, it's between Golden and Ayuk here. I'd rather have Ayuk than Pearsall, and I'd much rather have Golden than Jaden Reed. But there's a weird target share in Green Bay, and last year their offense was a lot more run-heavy. I will bet on Ayuk, who we've seen put up elite numbers in the past. Golden is a gamble. Well, I do like the value on Quinshon Judkins here. We already took Joe Mixon as our third. I think it'd be pretty risky to grab Quinshon Judkins. If we took Judkins, then we'd be done at the position. We'd just be trying to get lucky with just sneaking past with only 4 running backs. But surprised to see Albie pass on Judkins for Aaron Jones. We saw Aaron Jones go in the 5th round in the last draft, and round 7 is definitely better, but Judkins falls to 81. I think team 9, who does take Judkins as their RB4, boy, yeah, they're making the decision we did not want. They got 3 rookies. Actually, they got all 4 rookies so far. They, other than Omarion Hampton and I guess Caleb Johnson, they have every rookie running back on team 9. Whoa. With Brock Bowers, Travis Hunter, Mike Evans. I think team 9 is really gambling there. But Ayuk does have the NFC West correlation, so yeah, somewhat valuable. Deebo should have a chip on his shoulder. I hope so, man. I mean, maybe it was just the pneumonia. Let's try and hope that it was just pneumonia. But Debo started to fumble. I feel like he also got like a concussion or something. Debo is past his prime. Let's put it that way. Debo's on the downswing of his career, if you ask me. But there is a world where that Washington offense does really offer some tremendous value. Grapefruit asking, do I play any DFS for any other sport? I enjoy NFL, PGA, and UFC. I do not, my friend. I'm not big enough of a fan of those other sports anymore to actually play those games. Like maybe if it was 10 years ago and it was like fantasy basketball, maybe I would be interested, but at this stage in my life, I've really kind of dropped off as like a viewer of other sports. If it's not the playoffs, I'm just not as interested anymore. We're really betting on Harrison to be good, and I'm pretty sure the team right after me has Kyler, so I think we're going to invest in Kyler, but I should probably be taking a receiver instead. I just don't like any of the values here. We're going to go Kyler. Has some rushing upside. If we give Team 3 2 cracks at Kyler, I don't think we get him. Usually the team that picks Trey McBride in round 2 wants to stack with Kyler Murray. So I kind of need receiver a little bit more, but for the sake of not getting sniped, we will take Kyler Murray. Yeah, this is I think a big problem with being like a viewer of other sports. Like with the NFL, there's less than 20 games. Like every single game matters so much. When you watch it, it feels like an event. It feels like you need to be glued to the TV. You can't really miss a snap when you're watching the NFL. When you're watching baseball, like it's so easy to tune out. Like this is one of 160 games in the season. It is kind of meaningless. And like, you know, unless there's a home run, there's not that many, pick plays that are dying for my attention. It's hard to really focus on baseball, at least personally. No offense if you love baseball. But until we hit like September, October, and your team has like a shot at the playoffs, I don't care much for baseball anymore. I used to love baseball when I was like, 10. But by the time I got to high school and I really wasn't interested anymore, it just started to fade. But we can go Trey Harris, another Charger, or we could just take the dip in ADP on Josh Downs, but I'm not really dying to take any Colts receiver. We already have Ladd. Let's go Trey Harris. Let's set up that Justin Herbert stack. And that will be the tiebreaker. I'm not saying that Trey Harris is going to be significantly better than Josh Downs or Michael Pittman. There's definitely a world where this is the wrong pick. But in best ball, we want some correlation. And we are already invested in the Chargers offense being good. So let's go with Trey Harris above those other guys. Even though Downs fell, Downs had like an ADP of like 97. And we were picking at 100. That's not that big of a deal. Yeah, pretty irrelevant 3-pick discount on Josh Downs. So, once again, we have punted tight end. But kind of out of necessity. Because we go with that trip running back formation. But I can't say I'm excited about any of the running back picks in this range. Like, maybe Cam Scatterbo pans out, but Isaiah Pacheco already going at the top of round 8. Now we're only looking at backups. Like, Jaylen Warren for best ball is terrible. Jaylen Warren is just a floor play. Never giving you big contributions. So, not a player I want on my team. Tyrone Tracy, I think, is going to lose his job to Cam Scatterbo. It's going to take a while, though. So it's going to be a big like 55-45 split. And by like week 6, it'll probably flip in favor of Scatterboo, and maybe he emerges with like a 70% snap share, but odds are it's like such a big committee. Neither of them are really that valuable at all. Got a weird quarterback situation. I'm not interested in the Giants running backs. And then Jordan Mason, I think, is going way overpriced. I'd much rather have Charbonnet. But at this point, in terms of handcuffs, like, give me Isaac Garendo. You know, like, Garendo has more of a path for contribution. We're going to go Justin Herbert here because we have a triple stack correlation with the Chargers. We have Omarion Hampton, Ladd McConkey, and Trey Harris. We're not going to be drafting Quentin Johnston. We're done drafting Chargers, but this puts us in the spot where all of our previous picks are warranted. I'm happy to have the combo of Herbert with his top 2 wide receivers on this squad. So we'll move back to tight end soon. And if Tyler Warren didn't go to the Colts, I would say he's probably a decent value, but because of the landing spot, I really don't feel that confident in Tyler Warren. Like, it's pretty rare that rookie tight ends pan out in the first place, but now you're asking me to trust Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones when they also have like 4 receivers that are consistently on the field. It goes as deep as Alec Pierce and A.D. Mitchell in terms of target share. Like, they're all going to be impacted. I don't really want any Colts receiver on my team in general. But here, there's no way I want Travis Etienne or Javonte Williams. We get sniped on Njoku. We're going to go Tucker Kraft because we got behind the 8 ball once again at tight end. I would have much more preferred to have Njoku there. That's who I wanted. It's not who we get. Can't be perfect, but this is another 3 tight end build. That is for sure. But so far the team is relatively balanced. We have good running back production. That's what we're betting on. Beating out every other team at running back. We have Bijan Robinson, Omarion Hampton, and Joe Mixon. Very high upside, very high floor. And we will get a lot of contributions at flex with this trio. But then receiver, a little shaky. We have Ladd McConkey, Marvin Harrison Jr., Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and Trey Harris. And honestly, I think we're actually very much hinging on the success of Ayuk on this team. I don't see a massive contribution from Deebo. Hopefully when he does contribute, it's high ceiling games. But we're kind of just trading off touchdowns in LA with Trey Harris and Ladd, and then hoping that Marvin Harrison can crack double-digit touchdowns. That stack with Kyler Murray also needs to pan out, but Kyler was ass last year. Kyler was a bad fantasy quarterback. I'm not that thrilled with Kyler. If he didn't have rushing potential, he would not be worth the ADP. But because he can give you like a random 65, 75 yards rushing, that's where I'll justify it. In best ball, I'm willing to take the swing. But if you don't have Harrison or you don't have McBride, I would probably be passing on Kyler Murray in general. But I think this is a team where we can go Trey Benson. This team has 5 running backs. So if we get sniped on Benson, that'd be pretty shocking. But we have Kyler. The Cardinals did not draft a running back. And maybe we get boxed out of tight end and regret it, but we usually find good values at tight end later that are kind of comparable. So I'm willing to pass here. I'm going to go Trey Benson, our 4th running back, but not one that we're counting on. And Benson was shit last season. Benson did nothing. Benson was atrocious. When he actually had an opportunity to contribute as a starter, he was off the field as well. In Week 18, you didn't even get to see the potential. Michael Carter was the workhorse running back filling in for James Conner last season in Week 18. So If you look at that, Michael Carter actually did have a decent game. And given they didn't draft anyone, Trey Benson is in line to put up some good numbers if James Conner goes down. But Conner pretty much stayed healthy last year. First time in a while that happened. But James Conner is 30 years old. So not the safest candidate to stay healthy. And basically the argument you can make for Jordan Mason going pick 106 is the exact same argument you can make for Trey Benson. They have running backs above them that are 30 years old and usually miss at least 2-3 games every season. But I'm probably going to go Dalton Kincaid here. Especially getting sniped on Jalen Noel. Fuck. This is really gross, but we will go Kincaid. His ADP was 4-5, like the 4-5 turn last year. Basically where George Kittle's going. And he really didn't pay off, but this is basically where he was being drafted in his rookie season. And he did smash. He did have a very good rookie campaign. Hopefully we can pray on a bounce back campaign from Dalton Kincaid. But going past Jake Ferguson, past Dallas Goedert, past Kyle Pitts, I think is a little too egregious of a price drop. I think Kincaid at this point is worth it. I do think I got him like 11 picks past ADP. Yeah, he goes 137. Generally, we got him 148. So Tucker Kraft, Dalton Kincaid, not a terrible combo. Not at all. But I see you, Martin, asking, is Michael Carter still on the team? I don't think so, but possibly. Even if he is, he's not like a threat for touches. The only reason he had the biggest contribution, he is on the team. He's actually with the team for 2 more. Oh, no, just 1 more year. He's a free agent after this season. They gave him a 2-year deal, averaging 1.1 mil per season. Michael Carter on what is close to like a veteran minimum, not a threat at all. The only reason he contributed in week 18 last year is because Benson was hurt. Benson wasn't available, and that's why Michael Carter was on the field. But since we mentioned it, let's just show you what Michael Carter did. Oh, he's not even in the suggestions. Is this? Yeah, here we go. Game log. In the final week of the year, whoa, what we got here? What? There it is. Okay. In the final week of the season, Michael Carter was the starter. 17 rush attempts for 43 yards. 2.5 yards per carry is trash. That's why I have no concern about Michael Carter. But he did score a touchdown. He also had 4 targets, caught all 4 of them for another 16 yards. And that's 21 total touches. 4 targets, 21 total touches. If Trey Benson can average like 4.3 yards per carry on this type of volume, we have some respectable upside with Trey Benson. So it correlates with Arizona, and the running back in Arizona's backfield does catch passes. So it does pair well with our Kyler Murray stack as our running back 4. One of the higher upside swings you can get as a handcuff running back. But we're going to take Cedric Tillman just because the position is depleted at this point. He suffered a concussion and he was out like 5 weeks to close the season. It was like, okay, he should probably only miss like 1 or 2 games max. Cedric Tillman went down with a concussion, never came back to the field. So there's a world where that happens again. Can't say I trust him like crazy, but right before that concussion did happen, he did have some big blow up games. And who knows, maybe it happens again. We'll just pull up his game log and then we'll get to it after the next pick. We're about to be on the clock. So let's evaluate our options here. We have Tucker Kraft, Dalton Kincaid, we'll need another tight end. And at pick 172, we would be getting a good discount on Brenton Strange. I could tolerate a Brenton Strange pick here. Wide receiver, gross, once again. We could go Rico Dowdle, perhaps. I'll take Brenton Strange. We'll go with the third tight end. We've got a trio that maybe you could argue only needs 2 of these, but the odds that one of them is like a true bust again is definitely possible. And I do see like maybe 4 or 5 touchdowns max from like Kincaid and Strange. So we're piecing it together. That's usually how I do it. And now we can definitely call it done. Strange did have some good weeks. So we'll talk about Strange right after we talk about Tillman. But before that concussion that happened in week 12, we actually had some good games from Tillman. The 4 games before he went down averaged 10 targets, 6 catches, 75 yards per game, and 3 touchdowns in 4 games. That is, in half PPR, that's like 13 points per game. That's like 12 and a half, 13 points per game. You could do a lot worse than that. Now, will it repeat? I have no fucking clue. Probably doesn't happen. The only reason to kind of convince yourself it's possible is the fact that Harold Fannin Jr. at tight end is the only player they drafted that impacts the target share in Cleveland. Their quarterback situation is terrible. I wish they still had Jameis Winston. At least it'd be interesting. But Tillman will be on the field running routes as the number 2 receiver for the Browns. So at this point, we're just desperate as fuck. And a lot of things need to work out for that pick to hit. I could definitely see we getting nothing from him. But at this point, we're just so desperate. We can't really beg for anything more. But at running back, I'm going to go Marshawn Lloyd. I know for a fact that Marshawn Lloyd is the handcuff to Josh Jacobs. And I think his ADP has been climbing very appropriately in the offseason. Like, if you were drafting in this tournament the day after it launched, Marshawn Lloyd was basically undrafted. And it's only been 2 weeks, maybe even less than 2 weeks. And he's already moved up 2 full rounds. I think it's totally justified. Like, I don't think Marshawn Lloyd is less valuable than Devin Neal or Braylon Allen. He may not have as many touches every week as a guy like Austin Eckler, but if the starter goes down, if Jacobs is hurt, I think you're definitely getting a much more viable path for running back 15 production from Marshawn Lloyd than you are a guy like Jalen Wright, who probably has to compete with Ollie Gordon. Dobbins, we don't even know what team he plays for. Jerome Ford in a big committee. I don't like drafting Jerome Ford. I think Blake Corum, Marshawn Lloyd, whatever value you can get, those types of handcuffs are the same type of value, in my opinion. But we're back on the clock. We can only go with receivers at this point. I'd be willing to take Yoshivas, Pat Bryant, or Slayton. Let's go Andre Yoshivas. Maybe we get a season where T. Higgins or Jamar Chase miss time. Maybe Mike Gesicki misses some time. And Yoshivas is a decent target in the red zone that can give us some spike weeks. But if it wasn't for T. Higgins' pretty consistent lack of full seasons, like usually T. Higgins misses at least like 3-4 games. He's rarely playing all 17. I think we could see a path where Yoshivas does pay off, gives us like 4 good games. And at this point in the draft, like that's kind of all you're asking for. You're hoping that there's 4 games where he scores a touchdown and gives you like 50, 70 yards, and you get upwards of 13 fantasy points from Yoshivas. It's possible. I wouldn't expect more than like 5 of those types of games though from that type of player, but that's pretty much what you're hoping for with everyone at this point. But we mentioned his name to start this draft, and maybe we will consider him. One of the winners of that George Pickens trade is Roman Wilson of the Steelers. Will get some playing time as the number 2 receiver opposite DK Metcalf. If he's available, I might take him. However, you really need Aaron Rodgers to pay off and actually sign there. I would not expect any value whatsoever on Roman Wilson if it's Mason Rudolph under center. Rudolph kind of locks onto one player, and obviously that'd be DK Metcalf. That's probably going to happen regardless if it's Rodgers or Rudolph, but Roman Wilson was a second-round pick. We didn't see a single target last year because of injury. There's a world where Roman Wilson does have a bit of a breakout sophomore campaign, basically his rookie campaign, even though he's drafted last year. And if you recall on some of like the prospect grades last season, it was a very deep wide receiver class in 2024. This year, the wide receiver class was nowhere near as loaded. And therefore, a third-round pick last year was probably more equivalent of like late second-round value this season. I think if Roman Wilson was declaring for the draft this year, he probably would have gone second round, not third round, like he did to Pittsburgh. And the Steelers also have a very good track record of drafting the position and having valuable picks overall. But he could just be as valuable as Calvin Austin. It could be that bad as well. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I love this pick, but given the circumstances, I think it's warranted, worth a shot every now and then. And I do believe if they sign Aaron Rodgers, his ADP will start to move up the board. I think Roman Wilson could potentially be the next Marshawn Lloyd in the ADP where, a few weeks from now, we see him being drafted around 16, around 15, not round 18, but not the sexiest player. We have yet to see him in the NFL. But Albie says he got sniped by so many unstacked teams. Let's review your roster, my friend. Let's do it. Before I sign off, I'll remind everyone of your team first, and then we'll go over my team one more time. So let's pull this up. Let me drop that down. Okay. Albie had team 7. And in his opinion, it's meh. Let's find out. You got Goff. Completely unstacked. Oh, no. You have Goff with Laporta at least. You also have Drake May. Is Drake May stacked up with anyone? Hunter Henry. So the tight ends are stacked. Not bad. And then you also have Michael Penix. I actually think Penix, you got him a little bit past ADP, is actually a very good flyer at quarterback. So starting with Goff, you kind of can warrant a 3 quarterback build. I do think Penix is a decent QB3 option. So not bad there. Running back, you go Chase Brown, Aaron Jones, Tyjae Spears, DJ Giddens, Justice Hill, Will Shipley. Good luck with the 6 running back strategy. Like, you waited for Aaron Jones as your RB2. Personally, I think you should have gone Quinshon Judkins. I remember when you passed on Judkins, I was like, interesting pick. I prefer Judkins than Aaron Jones, man. That's just me. We've seen Jones play well in the past, but at age 30, I have a hard time betting that Jones stays fully healthy. Once again, that Vikings offense is really suspect. But you say you have a lot of Judkins already. Okay, I can justify that if you have a ton of exposure to him. You did get a good price on Judkins, though, when you passed. Anyways, Tyjae, DJ Giddens, running back room is a little gross, man. But I do love Chase Brown, and there's a world where, Jonathan Taylor goes down, Giddens could pop off. I don't like these Justice Hill, Will Shipley picks. Like, Shipley probably doesn't contribute very much. So, running backs, a little gross. But receiver, loaded at the top with Lamb, A.J. Brown, Xavier Worthy, Ridley. I do like Mooney. You got Josh Downs and Wan'Dale Robinson. I think if it was me, I would have drafted a 8th receiver and only stuck to 5 running backs and maybe like prioritized one a little bit sooner than where you took, Tajay or DJ. But that's just me. The tight end with Laporta and Hunter Henry, that's a pretty good room. It's a bit meh, as you say. I think the running back spot kind of makes this a little disappointing. That's how I kind of feel. Running back, not my preference. Wish it was a little better. But this is my team. We go with Kyler Murray stacked up with Trey Benson technically, but mainly Marvin Harrison Jr. And then we also have Justin Herbert triple stacked with Omarion Hampton, Ladd McConkey, and Trey Harris. And those stacks are really critical to work out for this team to really have any shot. I like the depth at running back on this team. We have Bijan, Hampton, and Joe Mixon, and then some big swings for handcuffs on Benson and Lloyd. But receiver scares the shit out of me. Receiver depth is very shaky. We have Ladd, Marvin Harrison, Deebo Samuel, Ayuk, Trey Harris, Cedric Tillman, Yoshivas, and Roman Wilson. We need one of these late round picks to hit, and if one of them has like a shot, it's probably Yoshivas because T. Higgins misses like half the season. Like that's probably the most likely scenario, and that's probably not going to happen. So unless Ayuk works out for me and Marvin Harrison has a breakout season, I think I could get buried at receiver with this team. But tight end, the trio's not bad. We have Kraft, Kincaid, and Strange. However, none of them are stacked up. And I like this team better than the first one in this live stream, but I can't say it's like my favorite team I've drafted either. So it works out okay, but if not for the strength at running back, not poised to be the best team overall. I could probably find a team I like better in this 12-team pod. But that's going to be it. We're coming to an end here. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. But there's a few other comments from Joshua Carrero here. Do you think Miami Dolphins should try and make a trade for Aaron Rodgers? Nah, man. Just hope for the best with Tua. Let Rodgers retire somewhere else and avoid the controversy. I don't really like that. I think maybe drafting a quarterback next season would be the move. We'll see how long Tua can stay healthy, but I wouldn't move off Tua for Aaron Rodgers. Kind of a lateral move with more of a headache in the locker room. But also asking, Elijah Moore is a Buffalo Bill now, dude. Remember how good he did last year with Jameis Winston? Now Elijah Moore has Josh Allen to throw him touchdowns. The problem, though, bro, is like it's so crowded in Buffalo. Like there's just so many receivers there. None of them can be that good. Like best case scenario, you're getting like a Mac Hollins season out of Elijah Moore. They brought in Josh Palmer. They have Keon Coleman going into his second year. They also have Khalil Shakir, who they extended with a contract. And then we thought Dalton Kincaid would be good. He's a first-round pick. Kincaid should probably keep those other receivers at bay. Josh Allen spreads it around too much. I'm not dying to be drafting any Bill, honestly, at receiver. It's just too crowded. But that's my opinion. It could definitely pan out where Elijah Moore does play well. I just think he was probably signed this late for a reason. Not too many teams like needed his services. And going to Buffalo, it's a very crowded target share. Needs 8 touchdowns to pan out, and I would not bet on that. Personally, I'm not going to be drafting Elijah Moore very often. But Albies has had to make some late moves due to the snipage. Agree on the 8 receivers. Good stream. Catch you later. Jonathan, hope you have a good weekend as well. I'll see you guys next week. And starting on probably Thursday, after the schedule gets released Wednesday, the videos will start to pick up. The videos will be more common on the channel, especially as we get closer to June, July. Obviously, August, it'll pretty much be at least 3-4 videos a week. But I hope you enjoyed the stream. Hope you have a good weekend. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Nice and blunt.